international business communication. Today we are going to discuss something that we think we know everything about, something that is that we've been doing since we were born, probably even from the time before we were born. And today we'll talk about non-verbal communication. Let's get into it. Some revisions as usual. I would like you to define what verbal communication is, what the tools used to communicate verbally are. I would also like you to find out or discuss which situations, in which situations is verbal communication most effective. I would also like you to discuss the limitations of verbal communication, and I think we had talked a little bit about listening, and I want you to figure out what silence is, where verbal communication is useful, where it's not useful, where would you really need to be silent, where non-verbal communication, of course after we get into this and after we've discussed what this is, where non-verbal communication would be more useful, would have a more significant impact than verbal communication, and where silence would be more useful. Silence, there's a whole body of research surrounding silence, but we will not discuss that today, maybe a little bit. So after you've discussed that, then we will go into non-verbal communication. What is non-verbal communication? Non-verbal communication includes all behaviors, attributes or objects except words that communicate messages that have social meaning. One of the definitions, I'm sure there are many out there, many definitions that talk about non-verbal communication that that can describe non-verbal communication in a much better manner than this definition. But I thought for the purpose of this lecture, this definition at least currently is suitable. Okay, so these are everything else except words, whatever we use other than words, and as we go into greater detail, you will realize that there is lots of things that we take for granted. So what are the characteristics of non-verbal communication? Non-verbal communication is dynamic, and there's a video that I thought that I would show you later, but I think it's more useful here. So let's see what we mean by the dynamic nature of non-verbal communication, and let's watch this video. If you're living in India, you may have seen this video at some point, and I'm going to play it. Let's see if I can get a full screen here. It's a short video, so please pay attention.
This is a baby. A baby generating data in a neonatal ward. Every heartbeat, every breath, every anomaly, from over 1,000 pieces of unique information per second, helping doctors find new ways to detect life-threatening infections up to 24 hours sooner. On a smarter planet, analyze the data and you can predict what will happen faster. So you can do what they're doing in Toronto and build a smarter hospital. Let's build a smarter planet.
Okay, thank you for watching this video. I'm not connected to IIBM in any manner. I'm not trying to advertise them. I just thought that this video would help you see what non-verbal communication, when it starts, and I'll show you the link to this video. This has obviously been downloaded from YouTube. With due acknowledgement, thank you very much for designing such a useful video for us. Again, I'll show you the link in another slide. I first thought I would use it later, but then later decided that I would just show it to you here. So it's constantly happening. We are constantly sending out signals into the environment. We are constantly communicating with our environment. There's a whole body of research that studies the movements during sleep. There's a whole body of research that studies what we do, how often we turn sides, how often we curl up, how often we stretch ourselves when we are dreaming. So it studies what people do subconsciously when they are sleeping, and that is all non-verbal communication. Our body is expressing itself. Now, many of you may say that the whole purpose of communication is to get your message across. So who are we sending all these messages to? All this is part of intrapersonal communication as I see it. So things that people see, are part of interpersonal communication. Things that we express when nobody else is watching is intrapersonal communication. And again, I'm sure there are many psychologists who would probably disagree. When I say intrapersonal communication, especially this non-verbal communication that occurs when we are asleep, when we are discussing things in our dreams, is a way of sorting out problems in our own minds. And again, that's again, I will leave that to the psychologist to explain to you, but there is a whole body of research that studies this. Point I'm trying to make is that all this is part of non-verbal communication. So it's always happening, and that is what dynamic means. It depends largely on context and is culture specific. And you can look this up. What we do, how we interpret these signals depends on what culture we are in. For example, movements with our hands. Again, I'm sure this is something that a dancer would probably interpret as one of the mudras, or this. Now, a puppeteer or a shadow artist would probably see this and say that this movement is, it will probably look like a an animal dancing, yeah? And somebody who teaches sign language will probably see this or this as a sign for an alphabet. Okay, so how we interpret just these movements by our hands will depend on who is watching this, in what context, where are they coming from, how do they plan to use this movement. So our interpretation of these contexts, these movements is culture specific. Another thing that I can share with you at this point is the eye movements, gazes. When we look at somebody and talk, in many cultures, in high context cultures, we've talked about the contextuality of cultures. In high context cultures, looking straight in the eyes of a person who's higher than you in authority or position is considered to be rude and inappropriate. In low context cultures, looking away from the person you're talking to is interpreted as being evasive. So it is all contextual. What we do is always context specific. Excuse me. This is more believable than verbal communication because a lot more senses are involved in interpretation. And it is ambiguous, which means again many interpretations, more than one interpretation. Okay. Non-verbal communication and non-verbal behavior. Now again, some more complicated terms, very often used interchangeably. If the source intends to send the message through behavior, but the receiver interprets the behavior as a message, then it is considered to be non-verbal communication. This is the first quadrant. Okay. If the source behaves with no intent to send the message, but the receiver interprets the behavior as a message, it is still non-verbal communication. I may be intending to send a message, I may not be intending to send a message. As long as the receiver of my message is perceiving whatever I do as something, as a behavior that has some message attached to it, some intention attached to it, it is considered as communication. On the other hand, if I am behaving in such a manner where I have some intention to actually send a message, but the receiver does not interpret the behavior as a message, then it is considered as a non-verbal behavior. It is just an action. There is no message attached to it. If I am behaving, if I am moving my body in such a manner without, in any manner without any intention to send a message, and the receiver is also not interpreting the behavior as a message, in that case it is again non-verbal behavior. So the interpretation, please look at this very, very closely. The interpretation of the behavior as a message or just as a behavior depends solely on what the receiver feels about the non-verbal behavior being exhibited. So my attaching a message to that behavior, or my intention to attach or not attach a message to that behavior, is immaterial. It is all in the hands of the receiver. And this connects with what we had discussed in the initial lectures. We had talked about the emotional volitional aspect of communication. When I'm intending to communicate, I have some emotions, some intention attached to that message, but what it is interpreted as depends solely on the receiver. It is determined solely by the receiver. Only the receiver, within his or her own context, perceives what is coming, and that is where our control ends, and the receiver interprets whatever is coming, whatever they are sensing through their sense organs, as behaviors or messages with intents, with their contexts, wrapped up in their contexts. Okay. Non-verbal encoding and decoding skills. Encoding and decoding ability are correlated. We have talked about encoding and decoding when we discussed Berlow's model. Encoding skills are related to one another, and as are decoding skills. Again, nothing in the social sciences is exhaustive, nothing in the social sciences is exclusive, everything is interrelated. Encoding skills, the manner in which we shape our messages, are interrelated, our skills are interrelated, and the decoding skills, the manner, our expertise in decoding messages is interrelated. Encoding and decoding ability correlate with personality traits and values. Again, what we feel about a situation determines how we decode a message or how we encode a message. In further lectures, we will discuss what our behaviors can be. We will talk about communication styles, and then probably you can tie this in with the communication styles. But what I'm trying to say here is that our ability to encode and decode correlates with our personality traits, what we are, what our natural disposition is, whether we are aggressive, whether we are apprehensive about communication, whether we are extroverted or whether we are introverts or extroverts, whether we like talking to people or don't like talking to people, how perceptive we are to the signals coming to us in the environment, etc. So this depends on what we feel about where we stand in our environment, what we define as our comfort zones, and what we determine as ethical or unethical. And encoding and decoding are manifested through introvert and extrovert behavior. Okay. Decoding ability increases with practice and training, but is curvilinearly related to age. So how we interpret the signals coming to us depends on our practice and training. And logically speaking, I think this is a very relevant point here. This has been, of course, I have given you the references. So what happens is that our ability to decode signals depends on the feedback we receive from our environments in response to our previous attempts at decoding similar signals. Complicated, I'll simplify it. What I mean to say is that if I go into my office for the first time, I've joined a new organization, I go into the office, I smile at my colleagues, senior colleagues, I say hello, and the person responds and says hello. I feel that the environment is slightly informal. So even if the person is 20 years, 25 years senior to me in age and experience, my saying hello as a peer, maybe 2 days ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, I was a student, I would say good morning sir, good evening sir. Join the same organization as a faculty member and I say hello, hello Dr. So-and-so, and Dr. So-and-so says hello, how are you? And I feel that the things have changed, that this is an informal atmosphere, that I can be a little more relaxed. If I say hello and the other person responds by saying good morning Dr. Malik, my immediate response is okay, I need to redefine my comfort zone. So my decoding of that signal has changed. decoding of the signal. The signal here is seeing a senior colleague. Senior colleague is there, but still I start seeing the organization as a vertical organization rather than as a horizontal organization, and this is what we are talking about here. It increases with practice and training, but is curvilinearly related to age. It doesn't have very much to do with age. It is more about the richness of experiences we find ourselves in. Encoding ability, on the other hand, increases with age. The frequency is more important here. And again, I'm not going to debate this point. I've always believed this. You could call me biased in favor of women. I feel, and of course research has demonstrated that women are generally better than men at encoding and decoding non-verbal messages. Hardwired, I'm sure there's a whole body of research associated with it. I wish I had the time to share that with you, but I don't. So let's just take it at face value. Okay, why do we communicate through non-verbal signals? Some of the reasons that have been given by researchers are accenting, which means emphasizing certain points, complementing, which means that for some reason, if our verbal message is not really complete, we complete it with the help of non-verbal signals. So if you look at my hands, when I say this is something that should be done, okay, can you please focus the camera on my hands now? Please focus the camera. Yes, thank you. So when we say that, I say this is the point I'm trying to make, or I say stop, please don't come close to me, please don't come close to me, and the person doesn't listen, and I say stop. And that is what happens when we are using non-verbal signals to complement our actions. When we say contradicting, we are saying something but we mean something totally different. This is what is commonly known as manipulation. So I could have something that's bothering me, and I could be very worried, and I have this big smile on my face, and so I use it to contradict my actions, and you don't know whether I'm happy or whether I'm really worried. Repeating, you need to do this. Yes, you need to do this. So that's repeating. And I'm nodding my head. You asked me, ma'am, is this okay? And I say yes, and then I nod my head like this, and I'm sort of adding more weight. Okay. Regulating, stop. I don't say anything, I monitor my students' behavior. I teach classes and I find students sleeping, and I just keep looking at them. I don't do anything, I just notice somebody not paying attention and I start staring at them. Immediately they straighten up. Okay. Or I see somebody hesitating and I want to encourage them. So what do? Yes. Yes, go on, go on. I'm trying to regulate people's behavior. I'm trying to get the scared, the shy, apprehensive people out of their shell. So I keep saying, okay, go on, respond to whatever has been asked. And if I want to cut down something, I say, okay, that's enough, stop. Okay, substituting. Substituting is when we use non-verbal signals in place of verbal signals to monitor behavior. And deceiving, of course. We have a whole bunch of things that I need to tell you about this, and we'll talk about this if we have time, we'll do it today, otherwise we'll do it in one of the later classes when we talk about the ethics of communication. So these are some of the goals. Okay, what is the difference between verbal and non-verbal messages? One is the linguistic distinction. In verbal verbal messages, we use language. In non-verbal messages, we use our body parts. The continuity distinction, non-verbal signals are continuous, they are dynamic, it's constantly happening. This is the link for the video that I just showed you a couple of slides back. The processing distinction, we process verbal and non-verbal signals differently. There's a whole body of research that deals with the parts of the brain that process verbal signals and the parts of the brain that process non-verbal signals. Again, debatable. Lots of research exists on this. Lots of people have tried to find out which part of our brain processes verbal signals and which part of our brain processes non-verbal signals. The outcome distinction, words have a different impact than non-verbal signals. And the absolute distinction is that when we say words, we are essentially talking about the denotative meanings. This is a table, okay. This is a monitor. It's a monitor, it's a monitor, it's a monitor. Computer monitor, that is all, okay. This is a piece of cloth. This is a dupatta, and that is what it is. Now, when I am talking about the non-verbal signals, it's a pink dupatta. What is it supposed to signify? It's got silver things on it. So, probably a little festive. The connotation is, why is she wearing these festive clothes? If you are in India, you will say this is normal. If you are abroad, you will say, why is she wearing all these pinks and reds and you know, very bright colors to work? It's not considered to be very formal. This monitor connotes a medium for me to use technology very efficiently for things other than watching movies. I mean, this is a medium for education. So all of this stuff is the absolute versus the connotative distinction. Non-verbal signals are connotative, verbal signals are absolute. Okay, how non-verbal behaviors support verbal behaviors? We use non-verbal behaviors to repeat. For example, giving a person verbal instructions on how to reach a certain destination and then pointing in that direction. That is the direction you need to go in. Okay, please go forward, go to the end of the class and sit down there. Contradicting. For example, shaking and perspiring heavily and stammering while making a speech in which you claim you got nervous. So you're constantly doing this, I'm scared. Okay. Substituting, for example, facial expressions or rigidity of body positions which communicates a message without a word being spoken. So instead of using words, as I just told you, I just stare. Instead of telling my students to pay attention, all I do is just look at them and they know that I mean business. Complimenting, for example, reflecting an attitude of embarrassment when admitting to a supervisor about your poor performance. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry that I made a mistake. I can't look you in the eye. I don't say that, but I'm like, I'm sorry, I goofed up. I apologize. So that is complimenting. Accenting is banging your hand on the desk every time you want to emphasize a point with an accompanying gaze. So you say, yes, this is what I mean. Okay. And relating and regulating, head nod, eye movement or shift in position which signals another person to continue to speak or stop speaking. All right. Some modalities, non-verbal modalities through which messages are transmitted. We have body codes, we have contact codes, and we have spatio-temporal codes. When we say body codes, we are essentially talking about movement with the help of our body. Contact codes are the modalities, it is the interperson that depend on interpersonal contact. So this is related to me in relation to the person standing next to me or person in my vicinity. Spatio-temporal codes. Spatio deals with the space, the physical space around me. Temporal deals with the time. All right, we will go through each of these one by one. Body codes. Oculesics is eye movement and behavior, and facial expressions and the management of facial expressions. So we have different types of gazes. Again, I could go on and on about this. I'm sure there are a couple of lectures on non-verbal communication by Professor Priyadarshi Patnaik that are a part of, I believe, NPTEL phase 1 and even NPTEL phase 2. I'm not sure, but that is something you can look at. So there'll be more detail about these things. I'll just give you an overview, and I suggest you go to those lectures and look at it more closely. Intensifying, exaggerating. So you have this intensifying gaze. We stare down a person and exaggerate a point. Neutralizing, which is understanding. You're saying that, oh ma'am, I made this mistake, or you go up to your superior and say, I goofed up, and the superior nods his head. Okay, that is understating. So you can neutralize things, you can bring down the intensity of things. De-intensifying is the avoiding gaze, which is what people who are trying to deceive you do, or when you're trying to be evasive, that is what we do. And masking, we replace things. Neutralizing is toning down the intensity of your expressions, and masking is completely replacing the expression with a different expression from what you are actually feeling, completely replacing the emotion with a totally opposite expression. So you're feeling happy, but you sort of put up this very sad expression on your face so that the other person, the person you're talking to, somehow gets the idea that you're really in need. Or the other way around, you want to appear professional, so even if you're disturbed and unhappy and sick, what do? You have this very happy, very content look on your face, so that people don't come to know how hurt or angry or how much in pain you are. Body movement. Okay, we have emblems, we have illustrators, we have affect displays, we have regulators, and we have adapters. Now, what are emblems? Emblems are body movements that substitute for words and phrases. So, we say thumbs up, that's an emblem. Please focus on my hand. Thank you. So, when we say emblem, this is an emblem. Good, buck up. Okay, continue, please continue. This is an emblem. Okay, illustrator are complementers, they add weight to what we do. I just showed you. Affect displays are movements of face and body that explicitly show emotion. Now, camera, please focus the camera on my face, and I say, this is what we do. I'll give you a very nice example. Instead of trying to do this myself, I'm not a dancer, but if you know classical dance and if you've seen classical, Indian classical dance especially, or ballets in the Western culture, you will see that facial expressions carry a lot of value. They don't need to say so many things, it all reflects here. And that is the affect display. Every emotion, everything they say, everything that is transmitted is by way of the movement of the muscles in your face, and that is an affect display, and we tend to do this even at work. Now, why am I discussing all this in a class on business communication? Because we use all of these things to get our work done in the workplace. Regulators are controllers, for example, showing the hand to end the discussion. Okay, that's enough. And adapters are movements we use to relieve tension. For example, tics. We have this, and I'm sure if my dad is watching this, my father has a habit of sort of scratching his nose when he's a little tense or worried. He has some, I mean, he does feel itchy on his nose, but I picked up this habit from him. You know, I would do this when I was a little nervous. Or some of us chew or bite our nails. Or what many women do is they take their hair and then they start splitting their hair. I've seen this. It looks very strange, but this is something we do. So these are adapters. We sort of do these things to get over or to reduce the amount of nervousness we feel in a situation. And this is all related to the movement of our body. Okay, all right, that is kinesics. Now, we have vocalics, which is the way we vocalize or say the words we speak. Pronunciation and accents. Schedule versus schedule. Schedule is what they say in the United States. Schedule is what they say probably in England. Northern India, schedule. The way we pronounce things. People who have seen the movie My Fair Lady will probably be able to relate to what I'm saying. I just realized I could have shown you a clip from My Fair Lady. In the initial part, in the very first scene of the movie, you see Dr. Higgins noting down the manner in which, again I'm forgetting the name of the lady, in which he speaks certain things. So from the pronunciation, he can make out where this lady is coming from, and he can narrow down people within 2 streets. In India, this is very common. You don't need to be a trained linguist in order to point out where a person is coming from, or in order to figure out which state a person belongs to and what a person has been exposed to. The manner in which we say, in the manner in which we pronounce different words is a clear indication of what place you belong to. Okay. Paralanguage is the speech sounds, the rate, the accents, the articulation, the pronunciation, and silence. How we interpret silence depends on the culture we are coming from, depends on the training And again, there's a whole body of research that deals with silence and its interpretation in different cultures. Vocal pauses and silence. Now, if you listen to me, if I take a pause here, I'm just quiet. This could mean two things. One, I'm trying to think of what to say next, or I don't know what I mean by these terms and I'm trying to take time to figure out what is there. Or as a teacher, who I hope you have come to trust as somebody who knows a little bit about communication, when I take a pause, you are probably, I hope you think that I've given you this time to read what is up on the slide before I can move on to the next point. So how we interpret these things depends on the culture we are in, and this is all part of non-verbal communication, and it's a body code. Okay, olfactics is the interpretations of scents. In India or in warmer countries, body odor is not considered to be such a big problem. We have learned to live with it. Why? Because you can't constantly be standing under a shower. It's hot. You take a shower, you're sweating while you're taking a shower in places like in the plains, in the plain areas, in the warmer parts of India. It's very hot. So we can shower all we want. We can put as much deodorant as we want. We still sweat and we still start smelling bad towards the end of the day unless we are sitting in an air-conditioned room. So body odor is a part of our culture. And the same thing applies to the Middle East, where it's so hot. In colder places where body odor is not such a big problem, anybody having slightly more strong body odor is considered to be unhygienic. And again, this is something that concerns us. Now, when we look at outside, things outside, the definition of pleasant versus unpleasant smell varies. In India, we are used to the scents of hair oils. We are used to the smells of flowers. Whereas in other cultures where these things are not so common, somebody using hair oil and somebody whose hair smells of jasmine or something could be considered to be very, very offensive. Or we say you must brush your teeth before a meeting. But in India, onions are supposed to prevent heat stroke. So what do we do at lunch? We take raw onion and we eat it up. And the minute I open my mouth in a meeting, people do this. Do they do this among Indians? No, we are all smelling of onions. But when we go in the West, we make sure we stop eating raw onions and raw garlic. Why? Because they'll make us stink. So all this is a body code. Okay, physical appearance, shape, size, proportions, color of different body parts, and our treatment of the different parts of our body. For example, hairstyle, treatment of nails, etc. That again is how we send out signals into the environment. A person like me, you'll say she's not fit, she's not taking care of her body, she's fat, she's this, she's that. She's wearing glasses, you could have used contact lenses for this. Why are you still wearing glasses? It goes with the profession. I look more professional, I look more I can't wear glasses when I'm going out for a party or something, or if I were a model I would probably not be doing this, but here it goes with the profession. It makes me look more intelligent than I am, probably. Again, that's a joke. I hope you perceive me as somebody who knows what she's talking about. Okay, contact codes. Again, these are the signals that we send out into the environment. Haptics deals with touch, how our touch is perceived by the people in our environment. Functional or professional touch is like a handshake. Okay, so if there was another person, I would demonstrate it, but light clasping of the person's hand, just lightly holding the other person's hand. Please imagine that these are two different people. Lightly holding the person's hand and giving it a slight shake and then releasing the person's hand. That is okay in the Western culture. What do we do in India or in very high context cultures? You hold on to the person's hand, you use the other hand to hold on to the person's forearm if you're really comfortable, and then you shake the whole arm. It's considered okay. But these definitions have been again given to us, or these categories have been given to us by researchers. So let's see. Functional touch is the professional touch, the kind of touch, the amount of touching you would do in a professional space. Social or polite touch is slightly more close. Friendship is warmth. So in India, shaking hands is okay. When we say polite or social touch, you meet somebody, you may just lightly put your hand on the person's shoulder if you know them slightly better. Friendship or warmth, you give each other a hug. Love and intimacy and sexual arousal is the closest that you can get to touching a person. The definitions, the distances are determined by culture. How much is professional, how much is polite, how much is warm will depend on the culture you are coming from. Proxemics, again this depends on the culture, the place you're in. Dr. Hall gave us these categories. You can find more detail over here. I'm sure there are other places also where you can find more details about this. Again, this was studied in the West, where you have fewer people and lots more space. So intimate space is 0 to 1.5 feet. Try using that in India. You go and stand in a line to buy railway tickets, you will find 50 people trying to squeeze into a 20 feet long room. They're not trying to be intimate with each other. There is no place to go. Okay? But according to the studies done by Dr. Hall, this is what was considered as intimate space, 0 to 1.5 feet. Personal space is 1.5 to 4 feet. Social space is 4 to 12 feet. And public space is 12 feet plus. So you say you keep somebody at an arm's distance. One arm about 1.5 feet. Okay? Or maybe 2 feet, depending on how tall and how long your arm is. But in India, we can't have that. So as long as I'm not touching you, it is professional space. If I'm piling on you, then it becomes a little more uncomfortable, but even that is okay. So all these definitions change with the place you're in. Again, we have our own notions, and sometimes these are very individualistic. Okay. These are dependent, not individualistic, they are dependent, they vary from person to person. Territoriality is another way by which we express ourselves in relation to the space around us. So when you come into a classroom, you say that is my favorite seat, unless the teacher tells you to sit according to your roll numbers or has assigned a seat to you. What do? You either go and sit with your friend, or you have a favorite corner, you have a favorite place in the classroom. When you board the bus to go to your office or to your school, you have a favorite seat in the bus. You board the plane, you have a favorite position in the plane. I don't want to sit too close to the toilets. I don't want to sit on the wing. I would like to sit close to a window, preferably slightly in ahead, or slightly in the initial portion of the plane. So we have our own little places. We have our own, where I put my mug. I have a cupboard. Where I put things in that cupboard will depend upon my notion of what my territory is, what I feel comfortable with, where should my things be, or where should I be in relation to everything else in that environment. And again, that is our way of expressing ourselves. Spatio-temporal codes are, chronemics is related to time, Indian standard time versus Indian stretchable time. Again, being politically correct is not one of my virtues, so I'm sorry if I'm hurting somebody's feelings, but that is culturally determined. In some cultures, when you tell somebody that you will reach their place at 10 o'clock, then that means that you will reach there between 9:59 and 10:01. Other cultures, 10 o'clock could mean any time between 10 and 11. In some other cultures, you will not give them the time. You say, I'll come to you, I'll meet you in the morning, which means between the time that you have your breakfast and your lunch. The artifacts we carry, color of clothes we wear, the shape of the frame of our glasses, so stuff like that. And the cues from the personal environment, how we place our furniture, how much space I want between my chair and my desk, what I put up on the walls, how are these things arranged, and how do they give the people visiting that environment an idea, what kind of an idea do I want people visiting that environment about my personality. This is the codes, or these are some of the modalities of non-verbal communication. Okay. Now, why are we studying all this? Very, very, very complex issue. We have different situations, professional situations. If you look at the column on the left side, these are some, not all, some of the professional situations we find ourselves in. some of the situations at work. On the right side, we have non-verbal expressions and behaviors. We have eye management, we have management of facial expressions, we have proxemics, haptics, chronemics, language, vocalics, etc., etc. We have to learn to apply each of these things to each of these situations in a manner that the people that we are interacting with do not feel offended, or the comfort zones, in a manner that the comfort zones, that our comfort zones align with the comfort zones of the people we are interacting with, and we get our work done also. So this is the complexity that we are dealing with, and that's why I shared all this with you. Everything we do has a bearing on how people perceive us, how professional people think we are. Okay? All right. Some implications of non-verbal behavior in the workplace. The first implication here is identity management. Identity management is the management of, or what people think we are, who we are in relation to our environment. Okay. The other thing is the impression management. Okay. The impression management is what people think I am. Am I professional? Am I not very professional? What I think I should be perceived as. Am I considered to be very sincere to my work? Am I considered to be very open about my work? Am I considered to be very honest about my work? So what kind of impression do I leave on people? Do people think I'm adaptable? Do people think I'm not adaptable? All that is impression management. All the things that we do, the manner in which we exhibit ourselves non-verbally has an implication on these things in the workplace. Conversation management is another one. Conversation management means how well do I talk to, or how effective a communicator, how effective a conversationalist I am perceived to be. What can I get done through the manner in which I talk to people. Okay. Emotional expression is another one. So how emotionally expressive do people in my environment think I am? That is something else that determines how I am perceived in the business environment. Do people think I throw tantrums? Do people think I'm aggressive? Do people think I am very, very neutral? Do people think I'm insensitive? What do people think about how I express myself, how I express my emotions in the workplace? Okay. Relational messages. What kind of relationship do people think I have with them? Okay. What kind of relationship do people think? Do people think I'm friendly? Do people think I'm obnoxious? Do people think I'm aggressive? All that is the relational message. And deception. Again, I don't think we'll have time to cover that in today's class, but we'll see. All right. Emotional expression and management. People express feelings through their communicative conduct in incredibly rich, it shouldn't be rick, it should be rich, I'm sorry about the spelling mistake, R-I-C-H, and diverse ways. Understanding the processes through which they do so requires an appreciation of the biology and psychology of emotion. So we express ourselves through what we are feeling, through the expressions, through the manner in which we deal with people, and in order to understand what is coming at us, in order to interpret what is coming at us, we need to understand the interplay between what a person is feeling biologically, between what and this is the connection, who I am in relation to what I've been trained to do, in relation to my age, in relation to my environment, in relation to my professional understanding. All this has to be taken into account before I claim to start interpreting the non-verbal signals coming at me from my environment. Emotion refers to a discrete, relatively transitory state that entails both an affective response and some degree of physiological response. It's not only feeling, it is the physiology associated with that feeling that we are dealing with. So when I feel something, when I send non-verbal signals into the environment, there is something physical going on in addition to the words that I am using. Some rules governing the management of emotional expression. One is simulation, which occurs when people show emotions they are not feeling. So we are trying to simulate the emotions. This is what actors do. Inhibition is when people hide emotions by acting that they are not feeling anything. Again, we talked about this a little while ago. This is more about neutralizing. Intensification is the amplification of experienced emotions, heightened emotions, exaggeration. Miniaturization is downplaying the intensity of a felt emotion, more like neutralization. Inhibition is more about masking, and of course masking, inhibition is when we completely negate everything that is going on. Miniaturization is toning down the intensity of emotions, and masking is replacing the emotion with something else. Some dimensions of relational communication, again these are manifested in and through verbal, a combination of verbal and non-verbal communication. How do we express our relationships in the workplace? It could be intimacy, depending on how we share our non-verbal signals with others in the environment. Emotional arousal or activation, the level of intimacy, how connected we feel to the person we are dealing with, what kind of emotions are aroused in our hearts, in our minds regarding that person. Dominance, where do we think we stand in relation to that person as far as the hierarchy of things is concerned? Am I senior, am I junior, am I at par? Similarity, where can I find a common comfort zone? Formality, what level of formality is expected of me and what level of formality do I expect from the other person? Task or social orientation is another one. What do I want accomplished through this relationship? And combinations of the above in varying intensities reflects the horizontal and vertical dimensions of relationships. So when we look at all these things, combinations of these things in varying intensities helps us determine where we stand in relation to the other people in our environments. Okay, we will not talk about deception today. Functions of nonverbal behavior in the business environment. Appropriate nonverbal communication, which is messages and responses to messages with subordinates, enhances cooperation. This is a given, common sense. Perceived trustworthiness and credibility of a superior depends upon the coherence between the verbal and non-verbal interactions of the superior and subordinate. How much we trust somebody, how appropriate we think their behavior is, how much of an expert we think they are, depends on the coherence between the non-verbal and verbal interactions of the superior and subordinate. Do our actions, non-verbal actions, match what we are saying or not? The appropriateness of non-verbal messages in conjunction with verbal messages for a work situation. Where are we using non-verbal messages to support our behavior, and where these two are completely disjointed from each other? Sensitivity to and acknowledgement of non-explicit non-verbal signals may have a bearing on the superior-subordinate relationship. Our acknowledgement, our acceptance of non-verbal signals that are not so explicit can help an employee either trust us or completely negate our existence. Okay, so now let's discuss. I would like you to think about a few things. I would like you to observe the non-verbal behaviors of people around you, and 1, list how you interpret these behaviors. 2, try and find out how well your interpretations match with the intended meanings of these non-verbal behaviors. Then I would like you to list and discuss situations in which you find yourselves depending on non-verbal signals to complement your verbal messages, and vice versa, where non-verbal signals take a priority and where verbal signals take priority. I would also like you to now watch this clip and discuss the implications of what you see and hear in this clip for your professional environments. Do you see any connection between verbal and non-verbal signals? And I would like you to figure out what is really happening in this clip. Again, interesting clip. The source for the clip is Mind Your Language, which is a TV series that was made in the 1970s. Still very useful, still very entertaining. So enjoy yourselves. And again, before I start this, I'm not trying to hurt the feelings of any particular race or community. It's just for entertainment and education that I'm trying to bring out the diversity in different kinds of people we see in our environments. No attempt at stereotyping, no attempt at hurting the feelings or sentiments of any community whatsoever. If I end up doing that, my apologies. Certainly not the intention. Okay.
Very thoughtful. Well, I really would appreciate the job, Mrs. Courtney. Miss Courtney. I am qualified, and I rather do need a job, what with the economic situation and inflation.
All right, there's no need to whimper. You can start immediately.
Thank you.
On a month's trial.
Thank you.
If you last that long.
I'll do my best. Where will I find my students?
Class 5, down the corridor and turn left.
Right. I'm looking forward to meeting them. I'm sure we're all going to get along extremely well. Good evening. Well, I'm pleased to meet you all.
We are also pleased to be meeting you.
I am Brown. Oh no.
You are committing a mistake.
A mistake?
Yes, please. You are not brown. We are brown. You are white.
My name is Brown. I am your teacher.
Ah, you professori.
Yes. Thank you. Right, would you all like to sit down? Sit down. Right, I'll just take a note of all your names, nationalities, and occupations.
Por favor, señor.
Yes?
Es la primera vez que vengo. ¿Es esta la clase para aprender inglés?
Well, I haven't the faintest idea what you're saying, but I'm sure you're not trying to find the needlework club.
Por favor.
It doesn't matter. Have a seat.
Por favor.
Sit down.
Ah, sí.
No, not there.
Por favor.
There.
Ah,
Right, I'll just go around the class and take your names. Yes? Ah, yes. What is your name?
Maximilian Andrea Archimedes Papandreou.
Then I'll just put you down as Max. Take it you're Greek?
He is right, from Athens.
Good. And what is your job?
I walk with sheep.
You walk with sheep. You're a shepherd, you work on a farm.
No, not far.
But you just said you work with sheep.
No. Sheeps. Big sheeps. Yes, sheeps. Tonkers.
Tankers.
Right. I work in office.
Good. Thank you. And your name?
Anna Schmidt, German au pair.
Usual German efficiency?
Germans are always efficient.
Not so. Japanese, much more efficient.
Nine Germans are the best.
Japanese make a much better television and do cameras.
Now, please, let us have no racialism. In this class, all are equal. Your name?
Giovanni Cupello, Italian.
Where do you work?
I work in Ristorante dei Popoli.
A waiter.
No, not a waiter, a cuccuta. Sì, a cuccuta ravioli, a cuccuta spaghetti, a cuccuta lasagna, a cuccuta everything.
A chef.
Okay.
And your name?
Andy?
What is your name?
Kya kaha?
Me, Jeremy Brown. You.
Pata nahi kya keh rahe ho?
Max. Anna Schmidt. Giovanni Cupello. You.
Oh, I'm अच्छा मैं लिख देती हूँ, लिखती हूँ, 1 मिनट फिक्र ना करो जी, लिखना पढ़ना आता है मुझे, मैं अभी लिख देता हूँ। अच्छा
Yes, yes, write your name down. Good, good. It's no good. I need your name in English.
नो उर्दू?
No Urdu.
हाय, तो मैं यहाँ का के लिए आई, अंग्रेजी आती होती तो मैं सीखने आती अंग्रेजी को। आपको क्या चाहिए? आप मुझे पता नहीं कहाँ से लाऊं, मैं पता नहीं क्या चाहिए आपको। देखो जी, सही लिखा हुआ होगा अंग्रेजी तो पता नहीं, देखें ये तो नहीं कहीं कागज जो आपको चाहिए।
Ah, certificate of registration, Jamila Ranja, housewife. Thank you. Good. And your name?
I am Ali Nadeem from Lahore. I am working at the moment, not anywhere at all.
You're unemployed.
Yes, please. Only 1 day a week I am working.
What do you do then?
I'm going to the unemployment exchange to be collecting my money. Oh, blimey. I get more money for not being working than when I am working.
Yes, but before you discovered this secret of eternal wealth, what did you do?
Blimey, I worked at Taj Mahal.
In Delhi?
Oh no, Patni. Taj Mahal Tandoori restaurant. Jolly good chapati and papadam.
1,000 apologies for my lateness. The omnibus was going backwards.
I'm sure there must be a more logical explanation.
It is the absolute truth. I was told to be taking a number 27 omnibus and I complied. But it went in a backward direction.
No, I think you meant it was going the other way.
That is the gist of what I am saying. 1,000 apologies.
Sorry. Perhaps you'd like to sit next to Ali, your countryman.
I can't sit there. It's impossible.
Why is it impossible?
I'm sick.
Oh dear. Well, it's not contagious. Perhaps you ought to come back when you're better.
I do not comprehend the gist of your conversation.
You said you were sick.
No. I am not referring to my physical state of mind.
How do you feel about Roman Catholics?
Oh, I treat them like my brothers.
Good. Well, you can go and sit next to Giovanni.
Stop it! Infidel gentlemen, please!
You're here to learn English, not start a holy war. And what is your name?
Ranjit Singh.
And you're from which country?
Punjab.
And what is your job?
I am a very important member of the British underground.
Underground what?
Just the underground. Mind the door!
That underground. And your name?
Peril Nagasun. My name Carter, Japanese, representative of Bushida Electronics.
Very good, very good. And finally, your name.
Por favor,
Your name. What is your name?
por favor.
Nome.
Ah, nombre, sí. Juan Cervantes, para servirle, señor.
No need to ask what nationality you are.
Por favor,
Spanish.
por favor,
What is your job?
por favor.
Trabajo.
Ah, trabajo, sí. Trilaga.
Tree lagger? What, you lag trees?
One gin tonic, 2 whiskey coca, Trilaga.
Tree lagers.
Sí,
Ah, you work in a bar?
sí, va.
Well, Mr. Brown?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, on that note, I would like to end this class. Please think about the things I just told you and come prepared for the next class. And all this is right here. Thank you.